Hi everyone, my name is Maria Van Vooplis and welcome to another episode of the Think Tank podcast. I've got the lovely Jo McKee from Copywriting for Profit, and we'll be doing an awesome interview on how to get your email marketing working for you. Just a little bit about Jo. Jo is the owner of Copywriting for Profit and teaches agency teams, coaches and small business owners how to actually make more money writing for any marketing format. With a background in journalism, ghostwriting, film distribution and digital marketing, Jo is able to show people how to combine words with the KPIs in their niche. Thanks, Jo. Thanks for coming on and having this interview.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Can you tell me a little bit more about yourself in case I haven't already covered it?
I think you've covered it pretty well from a work point of view. You know, personally, I'm bouncing between the Whitsundays and here on the sunny coast. Not getting out on the water enough at the moment. Glued to the desk a little bit, but when I get out, I do like to go for a sail or a swim or, you know, get some sunshine.
Beautiful.
Yeah. But basically anything with words is what people keep coming back for.
And I assume you'd love telling stories, and you have many stories to share.
Yeah, I'm actually a bit of a straight to the point kind of person. You know, like let's get it done now. But it just really helps drop people's barriers if you can show them how you can relate or put them in a situation where they can imagine themselves. So that's where story is really, really powerful. And yeah, I teach people two ways to get started with that. So one is the short and sweet that I like, and it's the logline method, which they use in movies. And it's like an elevator pitch, you know, who's the person, what's the problem they're facing, what are the challenges they faced in getting there and how did they overcome it? It's quite simple, really. We tend to glorify story, if you like, when really we just want to know how people got things done. You know, how did they get through something? And I think probably everybody listening, most people I meet have had some pretty big challenges to overcome themselves, and we like hearing when people do. So whether it's business or personal, just telling those stories helps people go, yeah, that's right, I can relate. So how did you sort that out? I'll do that. Yeah, easy, you know.
Lovely. So, Jo, tell me, what are your 3 key misconceptions about email marketing?
There's a few. We will stick to the main ones. The main ones are that you can buy a list and it'll be really effective, or the list will just build itself if you scrunch your eyes and hope it happens. So, yeah, that's something that we have to hammer home. Another one is thinking, oh, if I have an email list, is it really going to help me make sales? Because people don't really read their emails much. They just delete a lot of them. And the third one is that, yeah, people don't buy through email, which I can tell you is rubbish. The thousands of dollars I've spent on email from offers coming into my inbox, even in the last 3 months. Insane. People do buy, and it's very lucrative. And I see it across e-com and lead generation. So, yeah, email is great.
So email's been around for a very long time, but it's just so underestimated in terms of the potential that it has. Is that right?
Definitely. And it's not like I'm wedded to email. It's one tool, but it's a very powerful and very underestimated tool because, as you've probably heard, it's real estate you own. Even in the last 2 weeks, I can say Google have changed attribution reporting for keywords with if there's not enough search volume, and some brands are seeing this can affect how they make their positive and negative keyword lists. So less data, you know, things just change. Facebook is about to remove its 28-day attribution window, which we use a lot because if somebody takes 40 days to buy something, gosh, I've bought courses after watching somebody for 8 years. You know, people could take a long time. So you want as much attribution as you can. They're bringing it back to 7 days. Things are changing all the time on platforms. That's just the bottom line. And we don't own it. We're playing in their backyard. So if you can, sure, use those platforms, but use them to get people onto your platform, it's much more smart. Not much more smart. How's that coming from a copywriter? But, you know, I've known business owners who have been approved for home loans based on the strength of their email list and the size. It's a valuable business asset that you're building. And I think people, it's like eating the salad. It's like, oh yeah, I'll do that tomorrow, you know. Just, you've got to eat the salad. You've got to do it now. Yeah.
So email marketing, is it just for service-based businesses, or can product businesses get the most out of it as well? Or it really doesn't matter what industry you're in? Or like,
it doesn't matter. In e-commerce, we're using it all the time, starting obviously with the abandoned cart sequences. You know, we've got one client she's doing $40,000 a month sales on her email list. She's an Australian brand, you know, selling country clothing and doing really, really well. You know, if she wasn't picking that up, if she was just relying, her Facebook campaigns are very profitable, but if she was just relying on those, she would be leaving a lot of money on the table. So that's one example of e-com right here in Australia. And lead generation, massive. It's just, it'd be like trying to drive your car without all of the wheels. You know, you need it as part of your business is probably the best way to explain it. It's foundational.
So this goes into my next question. So would you say that email marketing is definitely a key component of any marketing strategy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've got some key fundamentals for email that I'd really like to write down. So, you know, you might hear in sales, always be closing, you know, ABC. Well, I say always be building your list. Always be building your list. Even if it's one person coming onto your list, that's one person you get to speak to. You know, if you go to a business networking event and you actually manage to strike up a conversation with somebody who's interested in what you do right then, that's gold. So you bringing one person onto your list, don't think that's a small thing and it's not worth it. It's worth it. And over time, incrementally, even if your budget's not big, you will be growing your list. Always be growing your list. You can do it through some organic channels. You can do it through paid. You can do it through word of mouth. I'm sure a lot of your coaches know, I think it was Marie Forleo. I was listening to her podcast back when she was pulling beers at a bar for a living. She still had her notebook and was asking people to join her list. So, you know, don't despise the old school methods, go for it. But of course, we've got efficiencies with our tools these days as well, and we're silly not to use them. So always be building your list, number one. And then always be nurturing your list. The number of people who come and say, oh, I've got an email list of 13,000 people, but I haven't spoken to them in 11 months. You know, it's like, okay, you could just ignore all those people. Good on you. There are ways to warm your list back up. It's worth doing, but just treat those relationships with some respect. Those people have taken the time to give you their personal information. They would like to stay in touch. They've shown interest in what you do. For goodness sake, don't lose that. It's a wonderful opportunity. So honor it and nurture that list. Segment your list. And that way what you can do is send different messages to people so that it's relevant to their situation. You can upsell, you can cross-sell. If you've sent an email and people didn't open it, you can resend that email with a different subject line, test it out, see what happens. You might scoop some more up that way. So segmenting is really helpful as well. And don't be daunted by that. Just start with something and build it out that suits in a way that suits you. Be yourself on email. People worry all the time about, oh my goodness, what am I going to say? Remember that they've signed up for your list, which means they're already at least a little bit interested in you and what you offer. So don't be afraid to be yourself. And that's the only way you'll stay consistent for the long term anyway. Don't buy templates from, you know, if you're not allowed shouty kind of salesperson, don't buy shouty templates. They're out there. You can pick them up for $37 in somebody's funnel. But if it's not you, it's, number one, it won't resonate with the people who signed up knowing you. And you can't keep that sort of thing up. It's like wearing a mask. So be yourself.
Yeah.
And then just share what you know and make offers. Really simple. We complicate this. Just share what you know and make offers. So yeah, 5 fundamentals there. Be building your list.
Amazing.
Nurturing your list. Segment it to suit you. Be yourself. And then just share what you know and make offers.
It's that easy.
It really is. We complicate things. Yeah.
So then how do businesses get the most out of their copy in that case, if it's really those as simple as those 5 key things? Yeah, it's simple. And, you know, if people were coming for convoluted advice today, sorry. It's keeping the perspective of getting the right order. So for me, it's always list, offer, copy. List is who are we speaking to? And that could be a segment of your list. So who are we speaking to? Offer, essentially, what problem are you solving for them today? And sometimes it might just be dropping in to say hi. You know, we talk about a problem like it's got to be
it's good when it's a burning issue and you've got an offer, but sometimes you're just dropping into touch base and they look forward to seeing you in the inbox. So list, offer, and copy. Do your copy, do your writing after you've thought about those things first. If you get it in the wrong order, it's not as effective. And I can give a quick example of that. Just over the weekend, running a campaign for a lead magnet, and it's the same copy that was then, they said, okay, let's launch this to 2 different countries and test it. And for the Australian audience, they were opting in at one price, and the US for audience opting in at another price. Australia was, I think, 54% cheaper per email onto the list than the US. So that's what happens when you write the copy and just chuck it out to different lists or audiences or whatever you want to call that. But if you write for the people you're speaking to, you'll have much better results. So list first, then offer, then your copy. And that perspective will help you get the most out. And the only other massive thing is to write from their point of view. And there's a lot of talk about this. You will have trouble in direct response on Facebook, for instance, if you're smashing your ads with you, because then Facebook worries that you're calling out people based on their attributes or characteristics, and you might make them feel bad, So you can't say, would you like to find other singles in your area, but you can say singles in this area are discovering that. So from that point of view, but you're still writing from their point of view. You're just not going to break your ad campaign. But certainly the quickest way to write from someone else's point of view is to put yourself in their shoes. And once you've done that, instead of sitting and, for instance, if you're writing an email or a landing page, you can, instead of wondering why would they buy this, trying to think of the benefits or write them down, think, why would I buy this? Because you're actually becoming the customer, you're putting yourself in their shoes, imagining yourself in their situation, talking their language. Why would I buy this? And that way, the reasons just start to flow, and you can talk about the benefits and overcome the objections quite easily once you've flipped it around. So list, offer, copy, that order, and writing from the perspective of the person that you're speaking to. And I deliberately say person that you're speaking to, not your audience, because that sounds so generic. It's people that you're speaking to.
So with times that are happening at the moment with the COVID period, do you think people would have to have shifted how they've been writing their email marketing to address current times, or just simply what their services are being provided at, what they normally do? So has there been a pivot? Have you seen that at all?
Look, some have pivoted aggressively, and I think they're shortchanging themselves because they just look like they're opportunistic. In these times of COVID, you need this, and they might milk some sales, but I think it's aggressive and it's seen as taking advantage of a problem. If you've got automations going out that look insensitive, then obviously it's time to freshen those up or send a different one for a while. Having said that, we're seeing some industries explode to the point where we've got clients feeling guilty about how much money they're making. One example I can give you now, I didn't do the media buying for this. I'm writing the copy for another agency that's running the ad campaigns. The client runs art classes, and she had, wanted a revenue this year of 700,000, and she did that already by September. We launched her in January on a $27 offer. She had a good organic audience to start with, so it's not like she started with nothing, but we just gave people bite-sized pieces and then said, hey, you've loved doing this, would you like to do this? And they're jumping all over it, and she's doing very, very well. But so many coaches, particularly, people are keen to learn things, whether it's to build their professional skills. They're also very keen to decorate their homes or learn a new hobby, or, some people have got more time on their hands, depending on what their life was before. And a lot of these products or services are falling into that beautifully and doing very, very well. So, yeah, there's almost like survivor's guilt going on out there with people who are making a lot of money right now. And they're just going, okay, how can I give back? I've done really well this year. That's wonderful. And then I guess it's overflowing because they're giving back, which is really nice.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So how does one keep their creative juices flowing when they write copy? Because with a lot of coaches and consultants that do their own copywriting, a common theme that I have seen is that creative block. So what is some tips around that?
I think, first of all, stop worrying about creative blocks, because then we create them.
That's true, yeah.
We think we have to have this news draped over the filing cabinet and a glass of wine to say what we really think. And if the news turns up, we might have some flash of inspiration over this guru, and it's just BS. Basically, just again, think of it like when you're catching up with a friend is the best way. What you need to do is, if you've got your lead magnet, you've got a reason people are opting into your email list, you do want to nurture them. And it's going to be the same old thing, which sounds really pedestrian, but you're going to want to get back to them and say, hey, you've downloaded this. Did you have a chance to go through it? For instance, if it's a PDF, did you see on page 4, there's this tip that says this? I'll drop back tomorrow and check how you're going. Try it out. Gives you an excuse to have another email come in the next day and say, hey, how did that go? And then, did you see this? And so you're going to welcome people into your orbit. You're going to give them an email that's, I guess, like the concierge when you first walk into a hotel and they say, okay, the facilities are here, here, and here. So you get people comfortable in your environment and knowing where to find things that would be useful to them, telling them what to expect. So you might have a nurture sequence that goes over a week or so, just to really ground that. And then obviously you don't want to just drop them. And this is where a lot of people, they get things built and then they forget about them. So a way you might be able to think about it, we call it the Seinfeld method. I think Russell Brunson coined that, it wasn't me. But lots of little stories about nothing, but they're entertaining. So you might just think of it like catching up with a friend, hey, you'll never guess this happened, and it might lead into a story. I did write down a few ways that might help jog people's brains a little bit, because sometimes you just need that snippet. So times when you could relate to where they are, funny Seinfeld moments, you'll never believe what happened if you can relate it back to what's going on. You can do a soft teach kind of thing. You can give people steps and templates, and then the outcome that they can expect from that, and some social proof of other people who have done it. So that's delivering some value there. You can talk about the future where people can expect to be in whatever time frame is appropriate for what you're offering. And it's often referred to as Hell Island and Heaven Island. You could contrast where they are now, and it's just awful. Sounds all very extreme, doesn't it? But awful situation they live in now, and Heaven Island, what they'll be in once they've bought what it is you offer. And you could come back and rant about something in your industry that really annoys you. Wrong. This is terrible. People are saying this, and I can't believe this keeps getting put out there, and this is what it really is like. So have a rant, go for it. One client at the moment, they're in solar. They don't have a strong offer. They can't compete on price with big companies that are putting in solar panels and often doing a very cheap job on the install, which actually leads to a lot of insurance claims. And they mentioned to me their friend works in insurance, and they said 4 out of 5 claims are from badly installed solar panels and leaking roofs. And then people find out that the installation's not covered, only the panels, so they're left with a problem. I said, this is going to be your angle. You're going to, instead of all the solar ads saying, we're going to expose, the government doesn't want you to know about this rebate, you're going to go in and expose the solar industry and say, my goodness, solar companies don't want you to know this, because this is how they're cutting costs and saving money, but this is why we do what we do. So that's going to become their way into people's minds as a local business that does not want to compete on stupid prices that, they can't deliver quality on. So it's just finding that angle, I suppose, that wrong, or that expose of an industry. And it doesn't have to be a nasty thing, but if it's true, then put it out there and tell people the truth, help them find information that's useful to them, but make sure you can back it up and you're not just bagging the competition or something. It's not fun. You can run an FAQ email. Often if we're doing a launch, that's definitely something we cover, because people buy on emotion and justify with logic, and they might be on the fence and weighing it up, so you jump in and answer the frequently asked questions. Current events, anything happening in the news. Journalists do this all the time. Article writers do it all the time. They just keep an eye on what's happening in the news and how that can relate to what it is that they're offering. And that can be a topical way to chat to your audience. You might give a really big promise in your subject line, how to do this in whatever time frame. As long as you can back it up, go for it. We're often finding that shorter subject lines work really well too, even 2 words. So play around with that. What to do if this happens. So you're giving them a little kit, a little survival kit, instruction manual, a brutal truth. You could do tips from an idiot. So that sounds confronting, but especially if you're in an industry where there are a lot of cowboys and low barriers to entry, have some fun with it, you know, just share some of the outrageous things you hear, and, you know, people can go try that and they'll end up with this. Go for it. And then you could do, have you ever wondered, you know, and run off things like that. So yeah, stories from your own life, crazy things that have happened, failures that have happened, as you would with a friend. If you're sitting having a chat and they say, oh, I was thinking about this, and you can go, yeah, there was this one time where this happened, and it relates to where they're at. So yeah, I think the best way to do is keep it as a friendship, and you'd be surprised that people do stay in touch. Even on my own list, I've got people who came through the agency funnel 2 years ago who didn't buy for one reason or another. They're still on my agent, which is different to copywriting for profit. Mm-hmm. So when I started that up, I did a little segue and said, well, we've got the agency running and that's there if you need it, but we're also bringing this training in because it's so needed by so many businesses. And they're opening the emails going, holy crap, I haven't spoken to them for 2 years, which tells me they're interested, you know. So I'll just keep giving them good ideas and tips and hints, and stay in touch with them, and then they might be keen to come and learn how they can write persuasive copy for their business and really increase the value of their paid traffic. So yeah, people do keep opening emails. It's amazing.
So Jo, can you tell us a bit about the resource that you've got so that listeners can access and use what they've actually and implement what they've actually listened to today?
Sure. I've actually got 3, which I've sent you the links for. So one of them is an email sequence, like a template for, it's got 5 emails in it, and it's just a good primer if you've got a launch coming up that you might want to build out of, just to get started for some inspiration. I'm actually not really big on templates because I feel like they're too cookie cutter, but I also know that people feel like they need some training wheels or some reassurance. So might be a good way to do it. And there's also an email checklist that you're welcome to have a look at and see if it gives you some ideas on how to drive your email campaign better. There's also a module on using story in your ad campaigns, and that applies to your email as well, where people go, how do I get started with story? And if you look it up online, you'll see lots of examples from movies, which doesn't really help you translate that down to a small budget ad campaign or email. So what I've done is put some bigger budget ads in, they're not movies, but for inspiration from the bigger brands. There's some fun ones in there too. And also local business ones, because I think it's really important to see what people are doing who don't have those big budgets and how that can work. So yeah, that's there as well, just as a free module to have a little play with.
And just before we close off, I'm just curious to know, how have you used these 3 things that you're giving access to the listeners? How have you used these 3 things to help other businesses? Can you give us an example of how you've done that?
Yes. So as far as email checklists, I guess we're in people's back end all the time going, how can we segment this better? What offer can we send to people? Or how can we resend, as I said, resend an email with a different subject line to get more people to open it and see what the reaction would be that way. So it just helps us test and tweak and check that the deliverability is really good and their account is healthy. As far as email sequences, I'm constantly writing for coaches, launches, and some are more involved than others, but they're very effective. And it's just really about, I guess, establishing the rapport with your audience, and you might need to warm them up a little bit first, and then delivering really good value before you're asking for the sale. And that also, that value that you're delivering helps position you in a place of authority in their minds so that they know they can trust you, so that when you say, hey, I've got this for you and you're going to love it, they already are inclined to believe that it's going to work for them. So it does a lot of that pre-positioning, if you like, because you've delivered something already that works. So that's there. And as far as the story, even as an example, one of our agency clients, they're in Brisbane, they're a local business called Easy Exercising, and they help old people or people who don't feel comfortable in gyms. What they have is power-assisted exercise equipment, which could sound really dry. You know, imagine me running that in an ad campaign. Come and use this machine. But what we're doing is we're building community, and there's a whole story that's come up around that. So number one, the tagline we started with was laughter and a cup of tea included, just to help people feel like it wouldn't be threatening. People started to come, the clinic started to fill up, and then the clients started being very happy to record little videos themselves. They're not flash, but they'll be standing there saying how now they can bend down and pick up their dog where they couldn't before. Or one lady said that she had a big pile of mulch to shovel, and that would normally knock her out for a week afterwards, and she woke up the next day feeling great. So they're telling their stories. And you might be familiar with Seth Godin, where he says people like us do things like this.
Yeah.
And so that's the premise we keep front and center of every campaign. And in easy exercising, it's been particularly effective with these cute little videos appearing in the newsfeed, and people go, oh my goodness, I know that person if they're in the suburb, because we tight location targeting, or that's just exactly what I'm dealing with. One lady who's got Parkinson's disease, she looks forward, she counts down the minutes. She did a video saying how she counts down the minutes to her sessions and how it's really helped her. So those stories are just coming out loud and clear. Simple things. The oldest client turned 98 this week, Frank. So, you know, we're putting up Frank's story and pictures of the party they had together, and he's got his party hat on like it's a mask, you know, just being an idiot. You know, so they're having fun, and it builds loyalty. Telling the stories of the people who are part of that community now builds loyalty to the point where they don't want to move suburbs until a new clinic opens in their suburb. They're incredibly loyal.
Beautiful.
So just share the stories, and you can do it from your clients' stories, or you can do it by sharing the building of your brand as you build it. People love it when you take them along for that journey, and maybe share some of the things that didn't go so well as the things that did go well, and why, and just be really transparent about it. And people start to feel part of a bigger mission. And then it's amazing how quickly people want to see things do well, and they want to support it. And so that will help you be top of mind, and they might, even if they don't want to buy your thing now, they might refer you to someone else because you've shared that story as your brand has grown or taken on a new project or whatever it is. So that can be fun too. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing this time with us and giving us your knowledge. It's been really informative to learn more about email marketing.
I hope so. My primary thing is don't leave it till tomorrow. Even if you start something now, if you haven't started building your list or you've neglected your list, do one thing, just one today, do one thing, and then stick it in your diary to do one thing tomorrow, and make it a challenge. Make it a spreadsheet if you like, with your campaign and who you sent it to and what the open rate was and what the subject line was or the topic, and just see what you can improve. Yeah, go for it.
Amazing. Thank you for tuning in. This is Maria Van Vukels from The Conscious CEO from the Think Tank podcast. Till next time, bye for now.
Bye.